Nanda, a kind, green-eyed 28-year-old, works in a busy cafe in Amsterdam, where she spends the day serving customers with a smile. After a very tiring day, Nanda went home on her bicycle, and as she passed through the fascinating streets of Amsterdam, she stopped at a flower shop and started hugging the flowers, picked one, and went home. The next day, Nanda went to work, and as she was serving her customers, she spotted a handsome young man called Felipe, who was strolling through the city. Soon, Nanda approached Felipe to serve him, and it was love at first sight. The next day, Felipe starts going to the same cafe, just to look into Nanda's beautiful green eyes. He starts talking to Nanda little by little and gains her trust. The next day, Felipe goes to the cafe and talks to Nanda again, and invites her to lunch at a restaurant near the cafe where Nanda works. She accepts because the day Felipe suggests is her day off. That sunny day, Nanda met Felipe at the restaurant, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement bubbling up inside her. When he saw her, Felipe smiled warmly, making Nanda feel instantly at ease. Together, they shared stories about their lives, their dreams, and their passions, while savoring delicious dishes and enjoying each other's company. As time passed, the connection between Nanda and Felipe only grew stronger. They discovered that they had a lot in common, from their taste in music to their worldviews. Each meeting became an exciting adventure, exploring the charming corners of Amsterdam together, cycling through the picturesque streets and discovering new cozy coffee shops. Meanwhile, Nanda and Felipe shared their deepest dreams with each other. Nanda talked about her passion for art and her desire to travel the world, while Felipe revealed his love of nature and his aspiration to build a meaningful life. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the love between Nanda and Felipe blossomed like the flowers Nanda loved so much. They became inseparable, finding comfort and joy in each other's presence at every shared moment. One day, as they walked together along Amsterdam's tranquil canals, Felipe suddenly stopped and gently held Nanda's hands. With his eyes shining with emotion, he expressed his deepest feelings, promising to love and care for her forever. Under the glow of the setting sun and the reflection of the serene waters, Nanda looked into Felipe's eyes and knew she had found her soulmate. With a radiant smile, she accepted his declaration of love, knowing that together they could face any challenge life threw at them. As the days went by, Nanda and Felipe began to see each other constantly and gave themselves to each other. But this love had its days numbered because Felipe had to return to his home in Brazil. Felipe told Nanda that he couldn't believe it, because love couldn't survive the distance. The day of Felipe's departure arrives with much pain, and Nanda goes to the airport to say goodbye to the boy without believing it. Nanda waited anxiously in the airport lounge, her heart clenching with sadness as she watched the minutes slowly tick by. Finally, the announcement of Felipe's departure echoed through the terminal, and she felt her stomach twist in anguish. When Felipe finally emerged from the crowd, Nanda held her breath, her eyes meeting his in a sea of conflicting emotions. She approached him, her steps heavy with the weight of the impending farewell. Embracing, Nanda and Felipe shared a moment of silence, filled with love and sadness. Tears streamed down Nanda's face, her words choked by the emotion that consumed her. Felipe promised Nanda that he would come back as soon as he could, swearing that nothing could erase the love they shared. He held her hands tightly, his eyes conveying a deep regret at leaving her behind. Nanda struggled to keep her composure, knowing that Felipe's departure was inevitable. With one last kiss and a tight hug, they parted, watching as Felipe slowly walked away towards the boarding gate. As Felipe's plane disappeared over the horizon, Nanda felt her heart shatter into pieces. She returned home, enveloped in a painful emptiness, her memories of Felipe, echoing through every corner of her small apartment in Amsterdam. In the days that followed, Nanda tried to find solace in the daily routine of the cafe and the familiar sights of the city. But the void left by Felipe's departure persisted, a silent shadow that haunted her day and night. Despite the distance between them, the love between Nanda and Felipe continued to burn brightly in their hearts. They kept in touch through messages and calls, finding comfort in words of affection and promises of a future reunion. As she looked forward to the day when she could embrace Felipe again, Nanda found strength in their shared memory of love and in the memories of the precious moments they spent together in Amsterdam. And despite the challenges that fate had in store for them, she knew in her heart that the love they shared was strong enough to withstand distance and time. One day, Nanda fell ill and had to leave the cafe to go to the doctors. There, she discovered that she was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. Nanda trembled with excitement and apprehension as she held the test results in her trembling hands. The news that she was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl, was like a roller coaster of feelings that left her breathless. With her heart beating fast, Nanda knew she had to share this news with Felipe. Even with the distance between them, she felt he had a right to know about this new chapter in their lives together. Determined, Nanda made a decision. She would call Felipe as soon as she left the doctor's office. She knew she couldn't put off this crucial moment any longer. With trembling hands, Nanda dialed Felipe's number, heart hammering in her chest as she waited anxiously for an answer on the other end of the line. But this moment of joy was under threat. Nanda called Felipe to tell him that she was expecting a baby, but he didn't take the news well, saying that their parents would never accept him being a father now that he was finishing his architecture studies. Nanda's heart sank at Felipe's words. She could hardly believe that the news that should have been cause for celebration was pushing them further apart. As she listened to the silence on the other end of the line, Nanda struggled to hold back the tears that threatened to overflow. She knew she had to be strong, both for herself and for the little beings that would grow inside her. With a lump in her throat, Nanda tried to convince Felipe that together they could overcome any obstacle. She talked about the love they felt for each other and the family they could build together, despite the uncertainties that surrounded them. But Nanda's words fell on deaf ears. Felipe was immersed in his own fears and insecurities, unable to see beyond the expectations and pressures that surrounded him. Saying goodbye with a knot in her chest, Nanda felt more alone than ever. She knew she would have to face this journey alone, but she was determined to protect and love her children with all the strength in her heart. Nanda felt her heart heavy at Felipe's refusal to assume paternity of the twins she was carrying in her womb. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she processed the pain of rejection, but at the same time, a quiet determination began to grow inside her. She knew she couldn't let Philip's decision determine the fate of her children. With a new sparkle in her eyes, Nanda decided that she would go ahead and raise the babies on her own, with all the love and support she could offer. It was then that she turned to her inseparable friend, Helena, for comfort and support. Helena, always there for her in times of joy and sadness, hugged Nanda warmly and promised to be by her side every step of the way on this challenging path she had chosen to follow. Together, Nanda and Helena faced the challenges of solo motherhood, finding strength in each other to overcome the difficulties that lay ahead. With determination and unconditional love, they prepared to welcome the twins who would soon come into their lives, ready to give them all the love and care they needed. During her pregnancy, Nanda faced many health complications that left her physically exhausted and emotionally drained. However, her determination to hold her babies in her arms strengthened her with each passing day. Despite the difficulties, she clung to the hope of finding joy. and happiness in the birth of her children. Finally, after months of anxious waiting, contractions began to appear, signaling the start of labor. Nanda felt a mixture of fear and excitement as she prepared to give birth, ready to face any challenge that came her way on the journey to finding the happiness she so longed for. With a mixture of pain and hope, Nanda finally arrived in the delivery room, ready to give birth to her long-awaited babies. But unfortunately, due to the weakness and excessive blood loss, cruel fate stole her life at the happiest moment of her existence, leaving the babies motherless. Helena, her inseparable friend who accompanied her throughout the journey, was devastated by the tragic event. Tears rolled down her face as she looked at the newborn babies who were now without their mother's loving presence. The world seemed to collapse around Helena, but even in the midst of the overwhelming grief, she knew she had to be strong for the babies. With a broken heart, she committed herself to looking after the little ones, promising herself that she would love and protect them as if they were her own children, keeping Nanda's memory alive forever. Helena, determined to find Felipe and ensure a safe future for the babies, arrived in Brazil and stayed at her cousin's house. With the twins by her side, she made the difficult decision to hire a trusted person to look after the children, while she went off in search of Felipe. With her heart squeezed and her mind full of uncertainty, Helena set off for the architecture faculty where Felipe was studying, hoping to find him and explain the delicate situation they were now facing. Helena's heart was pounding as she walked through the university campus, anxiously searching for Felipe's familiar face among the crowd of students. She was determined to do everything in her power to ensure that the babies had the chance to meet their father and receive the love and support they deserved. With tear-filled eyes, Helena found Felipe among the corridors of the architecture faculty. In a broken voice, she told him about Nanda's tragic end, leaving him distraught and stunned by the news. Felipe felt as if the ground had been ripped out from under his feet, leaving him lost in an abyss of sadness and regret. Later, when he got home, Felipe sat down with his mother, Dona Dora, to share everything that had happened in Amsterdam and about the twins who were now part of their lives. However, Dona Dora's reaction was not what Felipe had expected. At first, Dona Dora was more concerned about Felipe's career as an architect than the delicate situation of the babies. She expressed her concern about the impact the children would have on Felipe's professional life and suggested that he think carefully about his priorities. These words hit Felipe like a punch in the gut. He was disgusted by his mother's lack of compassion, her excessive preoccupation with material things rather than the well-being of her newborn grandchildren. Felipe realized that despite all her education and academic success, his mother still had a lot to learn about the true meaning of love and responsibility. The next day, Helena took the twins to Felipe's house, eager to introduce them to their father. When the doorbell rang, Dona Dora, Felipe's mother, opened the door and was surprised to see the babies in Helena's arms. She invited Helena and the babies in, and when she saw them up close, she was enchanted by their beauty. However, when Helena explained that the babies were Nanda's and that Felipe was their father, Dona Dora was shocked. She expressed her decision that she only wanted to keep one of the babies, the boy, and rejected the idea of taking care of the girl as well. Felipe, confronted with his mother's difficult choice, was stunned and didn't know what to do. He tried to reason with her, explaining that he couldn't separate the siblings, but Dona Dora remained unyielding in her decision. In a moment of despair and indignation, Felipe confronted his mother, refusing to accept his condition. Dona Dora then made one last offer: either the boy or I won't keep any of them. Helena, disgusted by the situation and determined to ensure that the babies stay together, left the house with the twins unable to accept what Dona Dora was demanding. She knew it wasn't what Nanda would have wanted for her children, and she was determined to find a solution that would keep them together, whatever the cost. As Helena tried to get on with looking after the babies and facing the legal battle imposed by Dona Dora, her life became a real roller coaster of emotions. The constant stress and uncertainty of the twins' future began to weigh on her, leaving her tired and tormented. Felipe, for his part, became increasingly frustrated and distressed by the situation his mother had created. He didn't accept Dona Dora's plan to separate the babies, but found himself powerless in the face of her unyielding determination. Meanwhile, the legal battle for custody of the babies intensified, with Dona Dora's lawyer launching accusations and demands that were increasingly difficult for Helena to face. She found herself immersed in a whirlwind of paperwork, court hearings, and heated disputes, while fighting with all her might to protect the babies and keep her promised to Nanda. Despite all the chaos and storm that surrounded their lives, Helena didn't give up. She remained steadfast in her determination to keep the twins together, knowing that the fight would be long and difficult, but that it would be worth it to ensure a bright and loving future for the babies. The legal battle raged with intensity, each side presenting arguments and counter-arguments in a relentless fight for custody of the twins. The hearings were marked by tension and anxiety as Helena, Felipe, and Dona Dora clashed in court, each defending their point of view with fervor. On the day of the final hearing, emotions were running high. Helena and Felipe, accompanied by their lawyers, anxiously awaited the judge's verdict, hoping that justice would finally prevail and the twins could have the loving home they deserved. After careful consideration of all the arguments presented, the judge handed down his final decision. Based on a detailed analysis of the case and taking into account the welfare of the babies, the judge ruled that custody of the twins would be granted to Felipe and Helena, leaving Dona Dora on the sidelines. A wave of relief and gratitude flooded over Felipe and Helena when they heard the judge's decision. They hugged each other with tears in their eyes, knowing that they could finally offer their babies a safe and loving home. With custody of the twins secured, Felipe took immediate steps to build a happy life for his new family. He bought a spacious apartment, away from his mother's negative influences, and hired a nanny to help him look after the babies. With the favorable verdict and custody of the twins secured, Helena felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. She looked at the babies in Felipe's arms and felt a comforting warmth in her heart, knowing that she had done the right thing by fighting for them. As she celebrated the victory alongside Felipe, Helena couldn't help but remember the moments she had shared with her dear friend Nanda, the baby's mother, who was sadly no longer there to witness that moment of triumph. A wave of nostalgia washed over Helena as she recalled the smiles, laughter, and moments of complicity she had shared with Nanda over the years. She felt a tightness in her heart as she thought of her friend who had gone too soon, leaving behind the babies who were now the light of their lives. Even with the pain of loss still present, Helena found solace in the fact that the twins were now in a loving and safe home, where they would be cared for and loved as Nanda had always wished for them. She promised herself that she would continue to honor Nanda's memory by ensuring that the babies grew up surrounded by love, affection, and happiness. The moral of this story is that true love and determination can overcome even life's most difficult challenges. Even in the face of tragedy and adversity, it is possible to find the strength to fight for those we love and ensure a better future. In addition, the importance of solidarity and friendship is highlighted, showing how mutual support can be fundamental in facing the most difficult times. This story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light of hope shining, ready to guide us towards happiness and true love.